A good night of Shabbos. It's Shabbos after Pesach, and we're already in the middle of the Sfiras HaOmer, the countdown to Matan Torah. But in our Chabad calendar, this Shabbos is a very special day. It's today, tomorrow, Chav Zayin, Chav Ches, Nissan is very special because the Rebbe said a sicha, which is in a way his last will and testament, if you could say such a thing about a tzaddik b'chlal in general and the Rebbe specifically. The shattering words that he said that night is, I did whatever I can to bring Mashiach. It hasn't happened yet. And now it's up to each and every one of you tut als was ihr kennt, zu herabbringen Mashiach. And let there be 1, 2, 3, up to 10 people who will have Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice to bring Mashiach. And as it's 40 years since the Rebbe said this, and I reflect back on the following as a perspective. There was a chassid, his name was Rebbe Avraham Pariz. And Rebbe Avraham Pariz was a Talmud in Teimpri Tmimim and Lubavitch by the Rebbe Rashab, and then he continued as a chassid of the Rebbe Rayatz, and then he was the Rebbe's chassid. There's a lot to say about him, and hopefully one day we will say much more about him, about his life, about his attitudes. And the saying that I was told, and it's plausible. I believe it's plausible because knowing this Rebbe Avraham Pariz, the type of person he was, the following is very plausible. He said like this: Ver Mashiach is Veisich. Who Mashiach is, I know. Was ich weiß nicht, what I don't yet know, is Vu is der Beis HaMikdash. Where is the Beis HaMikdash? Because in his lifetime, the Beis HaMikdash was not yet built. And as kind of silly or funny or entertaining that this remark of this chassid sounds, you might say, oh, he had a few too many to the l'chaims, and after a good amount of l'chaims, he made this pun. It's no pun, my friends. It's a very deep perspective. And I'll explain his perspective with a story. I was farbringing in Heichel Menachem in Yerushalayim many years ago, probably 20 years ago or so. And it was the yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, Chavdala Tevis. And there was about 100 people in the room and many Gerer Hasidim. And it was an animated farbringen and a very beautiful, united togetherness that we all had. And somehow the topic of Mashiach and Lubavitch and the Rebbe came up. And one of these Gerer Hasidim, kind of asked or argued or positioned, why is it that you Lubavitchers must say that your Rebbe is Mashiach? And I told him, the question is not on us Lubavitchers, the question is on you Gerer. Why don't you consider your Rebbe Mashiach? And why doesn't the Belzer Chassidim consider their Rebbe Mashiach, and the Satmar their Rebbe, etc., 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 etc.? In other words, Mashiach is a reality. An Imamim Be'emunah Shleima B'Biyas HaMashiach is not just a figment of Chazal's imagination. It's the culmination and purpose of creation. What Mashiach is who you are, who we are. If we are Mashiach Dik, and if we live and aspire and teach with Mashiach, then Mashiach is here. Now, of course, you'll say, well, he's not here. And even the Rebbe said he's not here. Yes, the Rebbe did say that. And we need a physical Mashiach in the physical world. All of these explanations are fine and dandy, but they're not the real McCoy. The real McCoy is a physical man who says, hello, Mr. Mashiach. He walks into your house, into your shul, into your community, onto your baseball field, and he says, Rabbi Sai, ladies and gentlemen, let's go. We're going to Eretz Yisrael. And all the Gentiles around are there to help the situation. Universal peace, as the Rambam writes in Hilchos Malachim, in the Laws of Kings and their wars. So going back to Rebbe Avraham Pariz's comment, I know who Mashiach is. For him, I assume, he didn't tell me, it was either the Rashab, the Rayatz, or the Rebbe. And I would say probably the Rebbe. Because a Rebbe like we have, within the 7 generations of Lubavitch, they never had. And I know some might be wondering about this outrageous statement. How could you say that Rebbe is as holy and as great as the Alter Rebbe? I'm not going to go into that now. I've written about it, and maybe at another occasion. Well, one thing's for sure, someone to deal with the world that, as we know it, post-Holocaust, and to bring back an entire generation, not just of Bali Tshuva, but of B'nai Torah, of assimilation, where in Europe, rampant assimilation in the best of families, from the Litvish to Hasidic, and a breakdown in the North African countries with the Rebbe Rayatz and the Rebbe sent Shluchim to Morocco and other places. Only one man did this. And this man says, do whatever you can to bring Mashiach. What did the Rebbe mean? He wants us to do it. He did it for us for 42 to 44 years. Even when he was ill, the last 2 years of his life, he still was pressing the button to bring Mashiach in different ways. Then came Gimel Tammuz, 1994, and the Rebbe physically passed away. Nevertheless, he continues now, it's upcoming, I think, to 27 years. 27 years later, and the Mashiach is in full force, meaning to say, the aura, presence, the reality, the excitement is here. And Avraham Pariz says, Ich weiß wer Mashiach is. That's not the issue. Whether you're a Lubavitcher or a Litvischer or a Sfardischer or a Polischer or a Ungarischer, Hungarian, you have to find your Mashiach. You don't want to find Mashiach? Sit on the sideline, no problem. Keep on eating chont and kugel, and then play golf and buy real estate. Mashiach is reality. What are you wasting your time with all of these foolishness and stupidity and waste of time? Now, of course, if you buy the real estate and you truly use it for Mashiach, kol hakavod, great. Famous Vort, to take Gashmias, to take the physical material and make it into spiritual. That's the ultimate. That's Teiras HaBaal Shem Tov. Ozav Tazav Imai. Don't negate and destroy the Gashmias, the material, but elevate it, transform it, and use it for God. Absolutely. But be careful not to fall into the trap, because the trap is very deceitful and very, very trickery. Can trick you very easily to believe that it's Mashiach dik, and it's really nonsense, Yetzer Hara, Nefesh Abamis, self-indulgence, ego, and worse. So here we are on this auspicious day, 40 years later. 40 years later, the student understands really what the teacher said 40 years before. we receive a sense of understanding of Bina, Arboim Lebina, today, that makes the Mashiach experience a reality. But like everything else that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made and makes in this world, it takes our avodah, our work. And this is what the Rebbe said. Tut alles was ihr kennt zu bringen Mashiach. Do whatever that's within your ability and potential to bring Mashiach. Not to say to violate, God forbid, the rules and the regulations and the order and the progression and halacha and customs. No, because that's antithetical to Torah and Mashiach and the Rebbe. But whatever is kosher, go beyond what's kosher, and it should be glatt kosher. What does glatt kosher mean? Going beyond the pale of convention. In Chabad, we have a term, lechatchila Rebbe, which is attributed to the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe of Shmuel, in which he said, the Welt sagt, the world says, if you can't go the normal way, go over. And he says, and I say, meaning, and Chabad says, to begin with, jump over. To begin with, break barriers. Rabbi say, let's all do this together. We could do it. If the Rebbe believed in us, we should believe in ourselves. And the Rebbe believed in us. Otherwise, he wouldn't say it. This wasn't a defeatist attitude, and the Rebbe was giving up. Oh, I tried whatever I can. I can't do it anymore. Leave me alone. Have a good day, and goodbye, Charlie. Absolutely not. The Rebbe was empowering us. And sometimes the way you empower or have to empower is by making an emphatic, drastic statement that shatters convention, that makes you shake. It wakes you up. Do you know what's going on here? Take, for example, the pandemic that Baruch Hashem is coming to an end or has come to an end. It shook the world. But there too we have to ask the question, did we change? Did we really change? Are we going back to $50,000 chasanas or $100,000 weddings and extravagant indulgences? We just had to wait a year and a half, 2 years until everything gets back to normal. But boy, we go back right away to extravagances and indulgences. Or no, we're going to make a beautiful chasana for half the cost, half the price, and the rest we're going to give to tzedakah, to a Jewish institution, pay for Jewish education, help melamdim, teachers, who are the very essence of teaching Jewish children and teenagers Torah, both men and boys and girls, etc. So as we stand here Erev Shabbos and we think about these ideas, and we're going into Shabbos Kodesh, the Holy Shabbos, and it's really Shabbos is an opportunity. There's no cell phones, there's no WhatsApps, there's no computer. Spend time with your family talking about these things. Get up early in the morning, learn Chassidus, go to the mikveh, daven like a Yid, slow, know the meaning of the words, sit at a Kiddush at Bringen. Make your Shabbos now, for us here in America, Shabbos is very long, so we have many hours. Don't waste your time reading, novels and just a waste of time. Spend time learning, talking to your teenagers, bonding with them. Because believe me, it'll go a long way. A long, long way. If not today, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, in the future. May Hashem help that the Rebbe's words, which are eternal and empowering, should give us the wake-up call to use it and all together do Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, by going beyond what's comfortable and bringing Mashiach, and we'll be Zeicher to the Geula Shlema, the cut of Mamish, when Rebbe Avraham Pariz will say, no longer, ich weiß nicht wo the Beis HaMikdash is, I don't yet know where the Beis HaMikdash is, but he'll say actually, ich weiß wo the Beis HaMikdash is, and it's in Yerushalayim, in HaKodesh, b'mheira b'yameinu, l'chayim, and a guten Erev Shabbos.